Well, Jay, it's wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's an honor. Let's begin our journey with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives, changing the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach things today?
Yeah. Uh, Pre-pandemic, pre-shutdown, here's how it started to change my world. In September of 2019, before the shutdown in February, I quietly quit before quietly quitting was a thing. I had been working in the corporate world for 33, 34 years, and this wasn't something I did on the spur of the moment, but I walked out. I was tired, didn't feel enriched, rewarded, appreciated, and just decided I'm going to do something different. I'm going to create a new chapter in my life. And it started with walking out. And I had all that time during the shutdown to kind of course correct, figure out what my next move was. Um, for me, all that downtime was deeply enriching and rewarding. So,
So that is totally fortunate that you did that during that time because that was again another existential crossroads for everybody, no matter what they were doing at that time, to figure out what they wanted to do.
yeah, absolutely. I am a spiritual person. Um, in fact, I'm going to be ordained as a permanent deacon in the Catholic Church this Saturday morning at 10 a.m.
All right.
And that journey started. But even before the shutdown and before me quietly quitting, uh, I had been called and just been ignoring that call. So that's one huge pivotal thing that happened for me at that point in time.
Wonderful. So, I have memories as a kid. We didn't go to church a lot, but the old St. James Church on the square in Liberty. Just for context for everybody, Jay is located in Liberty, Missouri, and I just so happened to grow up in Liberty. Graduated from there in '91. So, but I remember that church. I think it's a bed and breakfast now, I believe.
It's kind of iterated a couple different times. There is some church that's nested inside of there now. I want to say it's an Episcopalian church, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
And there's a coffee shop that's in the basement.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to swing by there at some point. Did that tornado hit the other night? Did that land in Liberty?
So east of Liberty North High School, Amber Meadows subdivision,
Okay,
there was some damage there. And then as you go further east and kind of like down 291 towards Avondale, Birmingham, there
okay,
was some damage in those areas as well.
okay. Yeah, I had heard something about that. I was up there in '93 when that tornado hit. Um,
Yeah.
I was up by William Jewell and we heard a train sound. I was at a friend's house who lived up there and we were like, "What is that?" And it was, our vantage point, we couldn't see anything, but we heard it, so I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So let's get into exactly what you have done, how you have reshaped your career these days. And I'm going to put you in front of 13-year-olds at career day. And one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize your day job for their brains?
Yeah. So you know how when sometimes you feel like you're stuck in your 13-year-old world, there are all kinds of things that are coming at you and you don't know how to make sense of some of them. And you're like, "Ah, I'm in gridlock. What do I do?" And you have all kinds of choices. I work with folks helping them get unstuck from whatever they're stuck in. It could be professional executives who have been doing things the same way again and again and again because they got the results and the success they wanted, and they've reached a ceiling or a plateau. And what has always worked for them in the past no longer is working. And so they have to figure out how to get unstuck. And that's where I step in and I help them get unstuck.
Isn't there a part of that process where it's hard to conceptualize change? Kind of like when we hear about these retirement blues that people go through. You
Yeah.
go through this regiment your whole life where you're working and you're waking up and you're responsible, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you don't necessarily have to do that. It's really about dealing with that sea change of change, like, because things are going to change and it's going to mount.
Yeah. And oftentimes we have preconceived notions of what that's supposed to look like. I was just on the phone with a client before you and I hopped on, talking about, oof, I worked in the public education system for 30 plus years. And when I left that, I thought retirement would be something different than what it is. And we talked through a little bit, and this person they're not retired. We had to talk about the concept and the notion of retired. They're working full time in an office furnishing space as both a project manager and a salesperson, and very active. And I said, you know what? Sometimes I get triggered by that R word because it was an invention of the federal government when they stood up the Social Security Administration back in 19, somebody will fact check me on this. I don't know, 1944 or 46, something like that.
Yeah,
That's where the concept and the word became more popularized. Retirement's what you make it. It's a choice.
yeah,
And sometimes folks disengage and totally just don't do anything.
yeah,
And some of the things I work with folks on is, you know what? You need to reinvent yourself. What's something you've always wanted to do that you never did because you didn't have the time, the energy, or the space to do so? Let's get accurate, first of all, about where you're at today, what's going on in your world, and slow down. Sometimes our thoughts get in the way of some of the most beautiful things because we start having conversations with ourselves about, I'm not good enough, or I don't have time to do that, or that's not what I'm supposed to do. Wait, time out. Who says that? Who's
yeah,
telling you that?
yeah,
Yourself.
yeah. It's the limiting beliefs that we put in our own brains that will pull us down, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this. When you were 13 years old and you were in that career day, see, what was your dream gig? What did you want to be when you grew up?
So 13, first of all, offer some context to what was going on in Jay Meacham's world at 13. Um, 1976 was the bicentennial of our nation, and now we're celebrating the 250th. Um, I would have been in seventh grade. In November of 1976, the farmhouse in central Iowa that my family called home for 30 plus years, where we had created all kinds of shared experiences, shared meals, gatherings, burned completely to the ground. Nobody was home, thankfully, no loss of life. However, all our belongings, all our possessions, photos, my dad was a World II vet, all kinds of memorabilia gone. All we had were the clothes on our backs. So it's funny you picked 13, Joe. That's a very defining age for
Yeah.
me. Very deep, deep, meaningful experience there. We were homeless for all practical purposes for about 8 months.
Wow.
So at 13, what was I thinking about? Whew.
Mm. You had to grow up fast.
I had to grow up fast. I'll speed it up really quick. I'm the youngest of four. Two older brothers both went into farming. Well, one of them went to Vietnam initially and then came back and went into farming. Another went into farming. They farmed with my dad. Um, in the late 70s and 80s, there were a couple of farm crises where one brother went bankrupt. Um, and it became very clear to me that if I were wanting to get into farming, there were two barriers, still exist today. They're much bigger barriers today. You either inherit the land and or you have equipment. And if you don't have those things, those are two huge financial obstacles to entering into farming, even more so now, because that means you're going into a significant amount of debt in order to acquire land or equipment. You could rent land, yes. However, you'd be living one debt payment cycle to the next, from one crop to the next. And I quickly decided that's not for me. I don't want to do that. Um, and there was some drama on the farm too at about the same time. I mean, there's more than just a house fire, there's other things. A sibling that's an alcoholic. Um, and so I chose later. probably at 16, 17, that I was going to go to college. The youngest of four, the only one to even indicate interest in that. And the other thing was I was going to have to fund it myself because there was no money in the family farming business to send Jay off to college. So
Yeah.
two really quick things that happened in the span of about 5, 6 years there that set the stage for me and the rest of my life.
Wow. So what did you get into? If you were to give me a snapshot of the job that you left before
Mhm.
you ventured into this new part of your life, what did you decide to do? Where'd you go to college?
So I went to Northwest Missouri State in Maryville. At the time, and this is the early 80s, out-of-state tuition at Northwest Missouri State was less than going in-state to Iowa State or Iowa or UNI, believe it or not. It's not that way now.
Yeah.
And because I was the one that was going to have to fund it or figure out how to fund it, cost was a determining factor. Plus, the beauty, Joe, was it was 90 minutes away from home,
Yeah.
further away from all the drama on the farm. And I should back up and say I was bagged and tagged to go to Iowa State. Myself and four buddies of mine from high school had enrolled and been accepted at Iowa State, and two of us chose to bail from that camp because a high school graduating class of 40 kids going to a public university where there's 20, probably 20,000, 22,000 at that time. And in a class, we did a stay a day thing. And there were supposed to be 500 people in this classroom, and there were maybe 30 the day we were there. And that was very eye-opening for myself and one of my other friends. And we chose to pivot and go to Northwest Missouri State. I majored in accounting, and I worked in the government sector right after graduating from college. I was in Denver for about a year and a half, auditing federally funded financial aid programs in a six-state region. So think at that time, Pell Grants, supplemental grants, Perkins loans. So lots of beauty schools, trade schools, some public universities. I got a call back from a company that I had been interviewing here in Kansas City with. They're no longer around. Um, DST Systems, if you've
Yeah.
been here, you would know DST.
Yeah.
I went to work in one of their wholly owned subsidiaries as an accounting supervisor and was there 28 years. Um, they went through an IPO in 2000, and then later in 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, um, they started to get pressure, shareowners wanting return on their investment. And so the sea change started happening there. And so DST started trimming up their balance sheet, trying to cut costs, and um, the subsidiary I was in was a target of that. And I dodged some early right sizings. Later, it caught up with me. And I was working in the continuous improvement office. So if you've heard of Lean or Six Sigma, those things, I was a Lean certified master black belt. So I was teaching others those tools and leading large projects at the same time. And um, my position was eliminated. I was offered a lovely parting gift. I took it and hung out my own shield and started doing business consulting. Eventually, one of those clients was a retainer client, and they hired me, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I was there for 4 years and started to see some of the same kinds of things starting to happen. Um, and I kind of just decided that, okay, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
Um, like I said earlier, I was tired of being unrewarded, unrecognized, underappreciated. I had the reputation, Joe, of being somebody who could collaborate with folks and could get the right people in a conference room around the table and pardon the French, get shit done.
Yeah.
And so that's that's who Jay was. And I got tired of that, being
Yeah.
someone else's um, biatch, if you will.
Yeah. Sure. I get it. I get it.
And I want to go off and be my own boss.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So going through that trauma early on, I mean, that's a minor way of putting probably what you went through when you were 13 years old. Who is consistently from that point on to right now, who's been that heroic inspirational force that's always allowed you to dig and find strength and become who you are today?
Mm. So growing up on a farm, and living off the land, you become a very resourceful person. You develop that kind of skill set. Perseverance is another thing. I mean, Mother Nature is not always the kindest person in the world to you. Also can be wonderful.
Yeah.
That's when my spiritual life started to really develop. I'll say from an inquiry perspective. Um, my grandparents, particularly my dad's parents, were very faithful people and salt of the earth people. I was around them a lot growing up. They lived maybe 10 or 15 miles away from us.
Yeah.
An extended family. My dad was one of 10 kids, um, four boys, six girls. All four of those boys served overseas at some point in time.
Wow.
They all came back. Um, so just being around those people, that family of origin experience, and seeing the pillars that they are, and well, most of them, uh, two of the 10 are still alive. And interestingly enough, eight of them live to be 90 plus years old.
Wow.
One of them is 101. So anyway, that lived experience early on in that family origin kind of set the stage. Um, I have been blessed, deeply blessed, by having folks in my life that were real good mentors for me, in college, even after college, and in the professional space. Folks that just kind of took me under their wing and really poured into me, and had the patience for a bunch of questions.
So if you can meet one person alive today that you find fascinating, that might help you on your journey, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Mm. Hope Leo.
Okay. I was just talking about that the other day. How much, because we have that Pope and Royal Stadium. Have you seen him? He dresses up in the, how fun that would be to catch a White Sox game with him because
Oh,
right? Because he would get into that side of his brain and it would be interesting. But it would also be weird just knowing that he's the Pope and he's at an American baseball game.
yeah. I think it would just be interesting to sit down and have a beer with him and
Yeah,
just talk.
totally.
He's a human being. He's like the rest of us. Yeah, he happens to be the leader of the largest organized religion on the face of the earth. He's also a human being with
Yeah.
very human emotions and thoughts and feelings. He's no different than the rest of us.
Whenever I talk to people that are in the Jewish faith, I always feel like rabbis are kind of cool when it comes to like the people that are running large theological institutions. Rabbis are always the one that have the cool sneakers under the robe, that have these really cool skills, and there's a groundedness to them. That's the way Leo feels to me. I mean, Pope John had a different level of acumen where you knew he was a regular guy. But there's
Mhm.
something about Leo that reminds me of a rabbi. There's just this cool quality. There's this grounded quality. You don't feel so separated.
Yeah. And I think it helps, at least in the United States, that he's a US boy.
Yeah, certainly does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a strategic move there on the part of the
yeah,
of the church in my mind.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this. What is it that gives you the energy every day to wake up to do this work that you do? You have clients that rely on you. You want to do a high quality job, and you also have a soul to nurture. What is that
mhm.
energy for you every day?
It starts with the minute I begin my day with prayer and I end my day with prayer. Some of that's just a developed acumen. Some of it is just discipline, and by virtue of being ordained, I have to engage in certain activities. Um, I have a morning. If you would ask me, Jay, how are you doing? This happens all the time, and I immediately tell people it's the best day of my life.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, Joe, it starts with setting an intention. Today is the best day of my life. Today is June, what, 16th?
Yeah,
This is the only June 16th of 2026 that will ever exist for you and I. And so, therefore, by default, it is the best day of my life
yeah, yeah,
because I say so too. So it starts with that intention, Joe. That's where a lot of my energy and drive comes from. Always being open, always being present to whoever I'm in front of or on the phone or on a podcast with. I am totally there.
yeah. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you walked into a room and there was a film projector, and you walked in your age right now today and you click play and a 60-second highlight reel of your life came up, would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
No. No, no.
Would you have any advice?
My advice to my 18-year-old self would be just be completely open to whatever the experience is that's in front of you. Don't get caught up in your mind and your own thoughts. Just be open. Be completely present and open to the whatever is occurring in that second.
So, of that 60-second highlight reel, what are you the happiest about, the proudest of? Pride's an ugly word, but happiest about.
Oh, man. So at 18, I mean, I already talked about the fire and the kind of impact that had. Um, my choice to go to college and where I went to college, very, very, very pivotal. That didn't make sense to me at the time. It was just what's the cheapest thing.
Yeah,
In those 4 years, I got a degree in accounting that set me off on a professional track. I was not baptized in any organized religion until my senior year of college. I consciously chose to pursue the Catholic faith. And that was at St. Gregory's Parish in Maryville, Missouri. That's where I went for what would be called OCIA now, but catechism.
yeah,
Um, I joined a fraternity in college as well. And I can't tell you, there's all kinds of people that have their own stories about fraternities. My lived experience was yes, it's all of that, and it's so much more. Um, I was a very shy, introverted person. But boy, howdy, once I joined a fraternity
yeah,
in a very good way, Joe, a very
yeah,
positive, very structured way. And some of it was me just being curious and pursuing those kinds of leadership opportunities that come forth when you are in a fraternity. Long, the choice to go to Northwest, join the Catholic Church, and be in a fraternity, long, long, long lasting impacts that I had no fruition at 18, 19, 20 years old. Today, I'm still connected to those people, still connected to them.
yeah. So when you look in the proverbial rearview mirror of your life, everyone has this idea of who they think you are, family, friends, everyone in a business sense, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am one, the go-to mind coach, particularly for the residential home construction industry
Yeah,
here in Kansas City. Um, did I walk into or create that thinking that would be who I was? No. Um, but it's honest. It rings. It resonates. It's proven. Um, Jay is the one person you can go to and talk to about anything, and he will absolutely hold it in confidence. And I do.
yeah,
It's an agreement I make with my clients, rather than in the home construction industry or anywhere else. Anything we talk about, it's a Vegas rule kind of thing that's kind of, you know, worn out. It's true.
yeah.
I hold whatever we talk about in confidence. It goes nowhere. So Jay is the go-to mind coach, and he is someone I can confide in.
That's a perfect way to lead into if anybody has questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
They can go to coachjmeacham.com. That's my website. And they can find out more about me and what I do. I do coaching, I do public speaking, I lead retreats, I have a monthly newsletter. I'm on podcasts.
Yes. Well, I will make it easy. I will put all of this in the show notes. Jay, this has been absolutely wonderful. So good to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today, and best of luck with everything.
I so appreciate you, Joe, and recognize you for who you are and
Thank you.
how you show up.
Thank you. It's an honor. I